Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again. We're going to do a continuation this session on data importing from Excel into Acumatica. If you didn't see the last video, just sort of data importing basics from Excel, you're going to want to check that out first, as everything that we are going to cover today was based on that first video. So what we're going to look at today is using the import scenario we created last time to import multiple invoices and to import invoices with multiple lines. We're going to show how to import invoices in migration mode and what the impact of that is. We're going to show how to move data providers and import scenarios between tenants. And then lastly, we're going to do a basic example of how you can do some data transformation inside an import scenario. So right off the bat, we're just going to move right into our imports by scenario, and we're going to use the same import scenario that we created last time. I'd named it DQ import AP bills. And here is the spreadsheet we're going to import. I'll show you guys real quick. Okay, so this time, a little different than last time. I've got two rows with the same reference number, you can see, and we're going to buy a couple machines, one for $50,000, another for $25,000. And then we have a third line here where we're going to be creating a new invoice. So I mentioned we could mix and match the contents of the files. We're going to do just that to create one invoice, 2 lines, and a second invoice, 1 line. So I'm going to upload that file. Then we're going to prepare it. Again, you can prepare and import it once, but I want you guys to be able to see the staged data. Looks just like it did in the spreadsheet. And then we're going to import. Okay. Switching to our bills and adjustments. And let me update this. So here's number 1, Exile System, reference number 3000. There's our 2 lines. You see the 50,000, the 25,000. Okay. And it ganged them together because we used the same invoice number. And then from that same file, invoice number 4000, its own document, its own information, because it was separated out with a different invoice ID in that import file. So lots of flexibility with how to do those imports. Talking about migration mode. So what is migration mode, and how do we differentiate migration from integration? You know, generally speaking, we talk about integration to be, an ongoing insert of data between, sharing your data between 2 systems, sort of for use, in one or both systems to then advance, business transactions. Migration really has to do with, a one-time move of data. And what comes up a lot is the need to bring in invoices into Acumatica from a legacy system, so from your old accounting system. And one of the things we want to avoid is to book the value of the invoices to the general ledger, because typically we're bringing in GL balances anyway. And so if we bring in the GL balances, let's say for your payables control account, and then we bring the invoices in again, well, we could double up the value of those open invoices. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on migration mode. And we're going to save it. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to bring in and post-release a bill without affecting the general ledger. So we're going to go back to import by scenario. We're going to use this same scenario. We're going to upload a different file this time. Okay. We'll prepare. Okay. And I've just got some differentiating language in here. We're migrating this open invoice. But really, the process to this point is going to be the same. We did the import. Now, if we come to our bills and adjustments, right, there's our record we just brought in. Okay. We're going to take it off hold, and we're going to release it. Okay. Now, looking at financial details, it says migrated. You can click on it. It's not going anywhere. There's nothing to show. This did not hit the general ledger. How can I tell it's different from one that did? Well, for example, if we go back here and let's pick Office Maximum, for example, and look at the financial details, we've got a legitimate batch ID, and it opened on my other screen. Here is the general ledger journal transaction that was created from that AP invoice. So with migration mode in place, invoice is brought in, posted to the subledger, but does not hit the general ledger. I'm just going to come back now, and I'm going to turn this back off. I mentioned when creating new data providers and import scenarios to always do that in a test tenant. That way you can do what you like without any worry about messing up any of your production data. And I suggested that it was very easy to move data providers and import scenarios between tenants. So I'm going to show you that is the case. So popping onto data providers, I'm going to bring up the one we created in the last video that serves that import scenario. And I'm going to export as XML. I'm just going to click Save. And I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to pop onto import scenarios. I'm going to bring up that same one. And I'm going to also export as XML. Going to save. All right, we'll do these in order. So I'm going to come back to data providers now. And I created a second company, just a duplicate of this same one, but doesn't have the data provider or import scenario in there yet. Gave it a different color so it's easy to differentiate. And just to show you guys, if I do DQ, it's not in here. So now it's as simple as saying import from XML, browse. It's just going to go to my default location, right, where I'd saved it. I have everything go to my download folder. I click upload, and the data provider is now in the new tenant. Right? Schema is there and everything. If I switch to import scenarios, still in this tenant. Again, same thing. Let's make sure that one's not in there. Nothing with DQ. So now we're going to do import from XML. Again, we had exported it. It's right there. Upload. A couple seconds to process, and there we go. Exact same import scenario. Last thing we're going to look at today is a little bit of data transformation. So talked about this in the last video. One of the best things we can do with an import scenario is to have a spreadsheet with the columns of data and then map them to the Acumatica fields where we want the data to come in sort of one for one. But we can increase the power by doing data manipulations or transformations. We talked last time about extract, transform, and load. So we're going to do a simple transformation here because we want a piece of the data to change between the Excel raw file and the data when we post it into Acumatica. So let's take a look at the example file I've got here. And the scenario is that we've got a coworker who is putting together these import files, but they have a bad habit of assigning incorrect sub-accounts. So we've decided that we want to do a data transformation such that we want all the sub-accounts to always come in as a series of zeros so that we can report on them and then do a reclassification entry later to clean them up. So in our sample here, we're going to bring in another invoice. As you can see, the sub-account here is a series of 9s, and we want that ultimately to be a series of zeros. So what we're going to do is I'd like to actually leave this import scenario pristine. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to copy this one. So first I'm just going to copy the name. Then I'm going to copy the import scenario itself. I'm going to click to add a new one. I'm going to give it a new name. And then I'm going to paste in the details. And just like that, click Save again. I've got the exact same import scenario with a new name, so I've got a duplicate of it. Then I'm going to come down here to the sub-account area, and I still want the data to post to that sub-account field in Acumatica, but now what I want to say is do not take the literal value in the spreadsheet. Instead, what I want to do is create a formula. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to, here we go. I'm going to use an IIF. So this is a if-then-else expression. So I'm going to say, we're going to do the first part, which is going to be if the sub-account value, I'm getting the fields node here, external, the ones coming from the spreadsheet. So if the sub-account value, of course I messed that up, okay, is other than that series of 6 zeros, then on transformation, I want it to be those 6 zeros. Okay. But if it already is, so we've got our if, then if it already is the 6 zeros, well then just you can put that in. Right? Again, not a very sophisticated example, guys. Just want to show you something in action. Click validate. We're all good. Click OK. I'm going to save. So now we're going to want to use our new import scenario. I'm coming back to import by scenarios, and we're going to use our new one. Okay. We can upload our file we looked at. Prepare. Now, take a look at the sub-account. Remember, this is the staged map data. The prepare said we were expecting certain columns of data. It was there. Therefore, we feel good about bringing it into the system preliminary to doing the actual import. So we still have the series of 9s. The transformation hasn't happened yet. But when we now click import, that transformation step is going to occur. And we're going to come over to bills and adjustments. Refresh. And we now have our series of zeros instead of the 9s. The formula kicked in, saw that the sub-account wasn't 6 zeros, put in the 6 zeros, and now we've got the invoice formatted the way we like. Okay, in reviewing and editing my video, I realized that transformation scenario I gave you guys wasn't great, because if I had just wanted to always overwrite 6 zeros, I could simply have just stated equals this value right here, right? The quotes with the 6 zeros in between. Better example probably would have been if sub account equals 999,999, then put in the zeros, otherwise put in whatever value is in the file as long as it wasn't the 999. But again, you guys get the idea. Lots of opportunity to take, read, and then change the data before we commit it to Acumatica. If you want to talk to me about Acumatica or my other favorite topics like the Chicago Bears, the Fighting Illini, football and basketball teams, and of course Star Wars, hit me up on Twitter at David Gelula, LinkedIn David Gelula, or via our DataQuest website, www.dquest.com. Thanks so much.